I work reception at a Berlin hotel. And an American checked in demanding we hold his laptop charger because Germans steal electronics. I explained Berlin has lower theft rates than most American cities. He said, "That's what a thief would say." I track this full-time so you don't have two and. This isn't just Berlin. Across Europe, I witnessed the same work obsession patterns that most channels never show. If that perspective matters to you, subscribing keeps you ahead of the curve. He made me write a receipt for a $15 charger. When I handed it to him, he studied it and said, "This isn't legally binding. It's in German." Told him we were in Germany. He asked if I had an English version. I rewrote it in English. He photographed it, emailed it to himself, and CC'd our hotel manager. Subject line, "Evidence for insurance claim if theft occurs," the charger sat. Untouched in our safe for 6 days, an American in our Stockholm office asked why we didn't have a hustle board to track productivity. We explained Sweden values work-life balance. She said balance was corporate speak for laziness. She created her own chart, ranking colleagues by emails sent. She was last. She blamed our broken outlook. Another American at Prague. Airport security argued his TSA pre-check should work. Internationally, because America invented airport security. Work obsession runs deep. I manage a cafe in Amsterdam. And an American asked if we had outlets for laptops. I pointed to several. He asked if we charged for electricity. I said no. He seemed disappointed. In New York, you buy coffee every hour to keep your table. I explained we don't pressure customers. He looked confused. "So I can just sit?" I nodded. He sat down, opened his laptop, then closed it. He stared at his coffee. After 10 minutes, he bought another coffee, just in case. He did this 4 times in 2 hours. When he finally left, he apologized for squatting. I told him he was welcome anytime. He said, "That's exactly what's wrong with European productivity." He left a review praising our coffee, but warning Americans that we enable work avoidance. I work at a pharmacy in Copenhagen. And an American asked for maximum strength energy pills, the kind that make your heart race. I showed him standard caffeine tablets. He said, "Do you have anything illegal?" I said no. He leaned in. "What do Danish people take to work 16-hour shifts?" I explained most Danes work 37 hours weekly. He laughed. "Seriously, though?" I said seriously. His smile faded. "How does anything get done?" I mentioned Denmark's high productivity rankings. He said, "That's impossible. You're telling me people work less and accomplish more?" I nodded. He stared at the caffeine tablets. "These must be stronger than American ones." He bought 6 boxes. He returned the next day asking for a refund because they didn't feel like work. Most people miss this kind of cultural contrast, but subscribers see it repeatedly. Every week I decode subtle patterns others react to blindly. If you want to actually understand why work obsession looks different across countries, this is where you belong. I asked what he meant. He said, "I took 4 and just felt awake, not stressed or guilty." Are these defective? I run a co-working space in Munich, and an American asked why we closed at 6 p.m. I explained most members go home then. He said, "That's when real work starts." I told him Germans separate work and personal time. He said, "How do you get promoted?" I explained promotions are based on output, not hours. He said, "But how does your boss know you're grinding if he can't see you stay late?" I said our boss also leaves at 6. He looked horrified. "Everyone just leaves together?" I confirmed. He asked if we had weekend access. I said yes, but few use it. He said, "I need to see this." Came that Saturday. He was alone. He worked until I locked up at 2 p.m., he said. This is why Europe isn't a superpower anymore. I mentioned the European Union's GDP, he said. Imagine if you all worked Saturdays. I work reservations at a resort in Santorini, and an American booked a 10-day stay, then called asking to cancel days 6 through 10. I asked why. He said his boss might need him. I explained our cancellation policy. He said, "You don't understand. I'm indispensable." I suggested he discuss time off with his employer. He said, I did. He told me to relax, but he's probably just testing my loyalty. I told him he could decide closer to the date. He called every morning of his vacation asking if we'd seen him check work emails. On day 3, he asked if our Wi-Fi could prove he was staying connected. On day 5, he cut his trip short voluntarily. He said the sunset views made him too relaxed to be promotable. He left a review calling our resort career suicide. I'm a tour guide in Barcelona, and an American on our gaudy walking tour took a work call mid-explanation of the Sagrada Familia. He held up one finger to silence me, then spent 15 minutes discussing quarterly metrics. Other tourists waited. When he finished, he asked me to summarize what he'd missed. I said I'd explained the cathedral's history and symbolism. He said, just the highlights. I mentioned it's been under construction since 1882. He said, classic European inefficiency. I explained Gaudi's intentional slow-building philosophy. He said, in America, we'd have finished it in 5 years with proper project management. I noted it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. He said, participation trophy. He took another call at Park Güell when the tour ended. He asked for a refund because he didn't learn anything. I said he'd been on his phone. He said, exactly. Your tour wasn't engaging enough to justify not working. I work at a ski resort in the Austrian Alps, and an American asked if our slopes had Wi-Fi. I said no, the mountains interfere with signals. He asked how people work remotely while skiing. I said they don't. He looked panicked. What if there's an emergency? I suggested truly emergencies could wait a few hours. He said, you clearly don't work in consulting. He asked if any nearby locations had service. I directed him to the lodge. He spent 3 days there watching skiers through the window while on video calls. On his last day, he asked for a refund on his ski pass since he never used it. I explained it was non-refundable. He said this is discrimination against dedicated professionals. He wrote a review warning that our resort punishes ambition and forces disconnection. Gave us 2 stars. 1 was for the hot chocolate. I work front desk at a boutique hotel in Lyon. An American requested a wake-up call for 4 a.m. I said it. He called down at 4:02 asking why no one had called. I apologized and said I'd investigate. Our system showed the call went through. He came to the desk in pajamas. I need reliability. I have a 6 a.m. presentation in New York. I noted that was noon here. He said exactly. I need to prep, I explained. He had 8 hours. He said, you don't become VP by sleeping in. He asked if we had a business center. I showed him our small office. He asked why there was only 1 printer. I said most guests don't print. He said, how do they review hard copies? I suggested digital reviews. He printed 47 pages of slides, then asked where our recycling bins were because he'd spotted 3 typos and needed to reprint. He reprinted the entire deck twice more. At 5 a.m., he asked for coffee. I made him espresso. He said, do you have normal coffee? This is too fancy for working. I brewed American coffee. He took the entire pot to his room. He checked out at 7 a.m., 2 days early. When I asked if everything was all right, he said, I can't relax here. Everyone's too relaxed. It's contagious. He left a review praising our quiet atmosphere for grinding, but noting we lacked the necessary anxiety for peak performance. These stories remind me that work culture isn't universal. What's dedication in one place is obsession in another. Americans often export their hustle without realizing other. Countries have different definitions of success. Maybe the real productivity hack isn't working more. Maybe it's working better than actually living. But what do I know? I only work 40 hours a week. I'll keep documenting these patterns whether you subscribe or not, but the people who do, they stay 3 steps ahead, spotting cultural quirks and work hacks most never see. If that's your speed, you belong here. Next time, Americans trying to negotiate in countries where haggling is offensive.